All right, Laura, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to hear all about your story, Clif family, and taste these delicious wines.
Thank you for having me today.
Awesome. Well, okay, let's get started. Leading into the segment, gave everyone your amazing background from science to winemaking, very intriguing with some creativity in there, of course. But, studying chemistry, what was the moment that you thought, I'm going to take this chemistry background and move into the wine business?
It was a very clear, defined moment in my life. And it was a friend of my mom's who was a brilliant man. And he knew I was trying to come up with some creative strategy to use my chemistry degree for a career purpose without being in a pharmaceutical lab or, just I wanted to be outside. I wanted to be working with people. And he said to me, "Oh, you should be an enologist." And I, at the moment, had no idea what that meant. I had to do a little homework, a little research, and thought, this is so interesting to be able to use my science background to create a product. So I had considered wine and coffee and chocolate and a lot of these amazing products. And then when I landed at my first harvest in New Zealand, I was sold on the industry completely.
Oh, that's wonderful. And a beautiful place. I visited myself and it is gorgeous there. So that had to be such a great way to get started. So now you're at Clif Family, and maybe we can just talk a little bit about, if people haven't never heard of Clif Family Winery, you also have a farm there. Maybe you can kind of give us an overview, and then we're going to taste one of your wines before we kind of get any further. I'm getting thirsty, but let's talk a little bit about the background of the winery. So if people aren't familiar.
So, Cliff Family Winery was founded in 2004 by Kit Crawford and Gary Erickson, who are also the co founders of Cliff Bar and Company. So, they
Hmm.
have a background and a history in food development and business. So, they started the winery here close to their home in St. Helena. And in the early days, we were making the Climber Red and the Climber White. And then as time went on, we really wanted to develop a hospitality hub and be more connected to our customers. So they opened up a beautiful tasting room in downtown St. Helena. And then we started making smaller quantities of more broad range of varietals, and then developed our tasting room here in St. Helena. So it's become an amazing hospitality hub where we bring food, wine, and farming all together in one experience, and it's really a fabulous place.
That's
We
great. And
have
oh, go ahead.
uh, we have 80 acres of certified organic vineyard in the Knoll district of the Napa Valley, which is a little closer to downtown Napa. And then we have 10 acres of certified organic vineyard up on Howell Mountain.
Great. Well, let's talk about the first wine that we're gonna have here in the show, which is your lower alcohol wine. And so the Vino de Planzo Sauvignon Blanc that we have, which has a beautiful, fun bottle, 8.5% alcohol, I believe, is what I saw. So tell me a little bit about the inspiration for this one. And, as a winemaker, what are your thoughts here?
So, Cliff Family Winery was really the inspiration behind Cliff Family Winery comes from Kit and Gary's travel experiences in Europe. They do a lot of cycling through these beautiful high altitude passes. And when they finish their cycling journey for the day, they always like to end the day in the village at a restaurant with a bottle of wine and a great meal. So that's really where the inspiration for the winery comes from. And in 2021, they came to me and said, "We really want a lighter wine to be able to enjoy with our meals. So, whether we're getting back on our bikes or we're going back to work or whatever might come after this delicious lunch, we want to be able to have a wine that is a little lighter in style." So, we started with a Cabernet in 2021, and I've made that for 4 years. And this is the very first release of our Sauvignon Blanc, which is the 2024 vintage. It is 8.5% alcohol. And the idea is that it's really friendly. The label speaks to it's a bright, the bright sunshine,
Yeah.
lively, colorful. It's very fruit driven and meant to be consumed with lunch and enjoyed. And then you feel great afterwards and you're able to go back to whatever you're doing.
Yes, it's a day drinking wine. That's how I see it. And the name literally means lunch wine. Is
It
that
does.
correct? Okay.
Vino del Pranzo means lunch wine in Italian. And this is meant to be, I think a lot of people are looking to change their drinking style. There's this non alcoholic wine movement. And we really felt like we wanted to make a wine that still held true to our stylistic goals, which is fruit driven, food friendly, clean, crisp, refreshing, with that lesser alcohol quantity. And this is a great example of what we can do with this kind of product.
Nice. And I've tasted a number of alcohol-free wines, but this I love because it actually still tastes like wine, whereas some of the ones without alcohol can be tasty, but it just feels like something's missing, if you will. Not to get too technical, but of course, this is a beautiful Sauvignon Blanc. It's got these great bright flavors and you have the acidity there. But just for us laymen, how do you take it from maybe what it was supposed to be a 12% alcohol wine and make it an 8.5% alcohol wine?
We have a lot of strategies in winemaking to make lower alcohol wines. We can pick earlier. We can do a little bit of dilution at the juice phase, which means we're adding some water. We can remove alcohol, and there are many, many different ways to do that. So I've done a lot of experimentation, and I've found certain techniques work for certain wines, whether it's a Sauvignon Blanc or a Cabernet. The strategy can be quite different. But overall, over the last 4 years, I've done a lot of experimentation in all of these categories. And found kind of the perfect combination in order to achieve the style at that lower alcohol for both the red and the white.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I really enjoy it, and I'm going to work this into a fun lunch time that I have coming up for sure. So you talked about Oak Knoll being closer to Napa, being more in that southern part of Napa. What does that do for the grapes that you're growing and the wines that you're making, being in the position that you are?
Well, we chose the Oak Knoll district for a couple of reasons. Number one is we had built a business where we were making many, many different wines and relying on a lot of different grape varietals to meet our wine club demand and our customer demand at the tasting room. So to purchase a vineyard that was all Cabernet wasn't really what we needed. So we were very lucky to find a bare piece of land in the Oak Knoll district. The vineyard had just been removed, so we were able to plant anything we wanted. And that's a really unique opportunity. The Oak Knoll
Yes.
district, as an AVA, is known for its varietal diversity. There is Petit Syrah, there is Zinfandel, there's a lot of Cabernet. Oak Knoll is known for Merlot. There's a winery across the street that has Riesling. So there's a lot of different varietals that are thriving in wineries in the Oak Knoll district. So we felt really confident that we had chosen the right spot and we had this amazing opportunity to plant anything that we wanted. So we did plant 9 different varietals in 2018. Now, the other really important piece is that in the world of changing climates, where we're seeing just a lot more extreme weather patterns, whether it be extreme rain in the wintertime, extreme frost, extreme wind, which causes wildfire, whatever that might be, we want to anticipate and plan for the future. So the Oak Knoll district, although it is not as cool as Carneros, it might be a lot cooler than, say, St. Helena or Calistoga. So we really felt like we were in a climate that we could sustain a little bit more fluctuation with some of these extremes. So we've really found that the positioning was a great choice. We have a lot of water availability, which can allow us for frost protection and cooling misters in a heat wave. We have really deep soils that allow us to have a vine that grows with some vigor that can then withstand a heavier crop load to achieve vine balance that then can have a lot more resilience during these heat spikes. We really feel like we have chosen a vineyard and a site that can sustain the changes that we expect to come.
Sounds like it for sure. Well, that sounds perfect. And you mentioned all the different varietals that you grow. We've already tasted your Sauvignon Blanc, of course, which was delicious, our lunch wine. But maybe let's graduate to our appetizer wine with your Unoaked Chardonnay. And I absolutely love this style of Chardonnay. So I was so excited that you sent this and we were going to talk about it. So tell me my mom is a big buttery, oaky Chardonnay person, which with certain foods I can really enjoy, but I really love the fresh and refreshing style of unoaked. What inspired you to make one of these?
Well, we had this amazing new vineyard, and it was the very first vintage. And we were looking for a wine that we could get to bottle relatively early and something that was aligned with our traditional white style, sort of as a winery of being clean and crisp and fruit driven. And we decided to try an unoaked Chardonnay. So I picked it a little early and early on the scale of Chardonnay ripening. So maybe
Okay.
in the 23 bricks category. So that's our sugar measurement. And fermented it really cold and then put it down to 100% stainless steel barrels. So those are slightly larger than a regular oak barrel. They're just about 75 gallons, but it allows me to age on the lees, on the solids. So I can stir and I can develop some really nice mid palate and creaminess without any malolactic fermentation, which causes the buttery character, and without any oak.
Nice.
So that was the stylistic approach to this wine, and it has become a crazy success. Our wine club members, our website, everyone loves this wine. And for me, it's a very, very clean, pure expression of this varietal. I think as a winemaker, we tend to manipulate Chardonnay, which has become a very, very classic and expected style in the Napa Valley that I love. So many people in this world love Napa Valley Chardonnay. But with that comes the expectation that it's pretty big, it's ripe, it has a more of a golden color to it, and it has a lot of creaminess and oakiness. It's just a very different style. So this, we're aiming to pair well with food and be a very, very fruit-driven expression of the varietal.
It is. And I'm located here in Maryland on the East Coast, but we're off of the Chesapeake Bay. So everything's about seafood, especially we're starting to, get into those seasons coming up. And so this would be such a great wine to have with seafood, I feel like, because it does retain all that acidity. You wouldn't need a butter sauce or a creamy sauce to bring it together with that other style of Chardonnay, if you will.
Definitely. I mean, food and wine pairing is something that we talk about all the time here at Clif Family Winery. And I'm thinking even just a dozen oysters. And we talk about like a comparative pairing versus a contrast pairing. And that would very much be a contrast pairing where you have the creaminess of the oyster followed by the really bright acidity in this wine, and then pair it up with a little bit of like a mignonette sauce. And it's just a match made in heaven.
That's my favorite. I don't really even want the cocktail sauce. I just want the mignonette sauce.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, this is delicious. We're going to talk about sustainability in a minute because I know people really love knowing that, the winery is doing no harm to the land around and really, being a good steward of the land. But one of the things I found very interesting on your website that I think Gary started from early on with your winery is having the food truck there. So tell me a little bit about that, and can people still experience that at the winery?
Yes, it's called the Bruschetteria. And the inspiration takes us back to Italy. Kit and Gary have some friends that have a bruschetteria in Italy. It's a beautiful restaurant. And Gary and Kit wanted to bring that back to their tasting room in the Napa Valley. And because the rules and regulations of the county don't allow us to act like a restaurant, we can't really, there's strict regulations on what kind of food we can serve in the tasting room. We ended up doing it as a food truck. So it sounds more casual than it really is. It's quite gourmet. We not only prepared delicious bruschetta, and it's not just traditional tomato-based bruschetta. Typically it's, fresh farm ripe tomatoes on a beautiful piece of bread. We also have what we call the cured, which is smoked salmon, and we have porchetta, and we have a whole host of seasonal items as well. And a lot of the ingredients that we use on the food truck are grown on our organic farm on Howell Mountain. So we have a full-time executive chef and a culinary team that works with our farm manager, and they plan a year in advance, and we grow all of these things starting from seed in the greenhouse in the wintertime that then get planted into the ground and harvested specifically for predetermined item on the food truck. So it's a really, really beautiful farm to table type experience with the wine as the main focal point.
Of course, your chef has such a farm basket, if you will, to pick from, that he must be just, in heaven with all of those choices. And I think I even see you're raising your own bees for honey as well.
We encourage bee population mainly for pollinator purposes. Okay. We do make a solar grown honey, but that's a project where we're not actually making the honey ourselves. We partner with an organization called Solar Grown, and they are making the honey on solar farms. They kind of identified this as some wasted space, the ground underneath solar farms. And they decided that if they planted pollinator plants and then made honey, it was a very sustainable approach to how to utilize the land. So we partner with them, and they are definitely chef-inspired flavors. We have a vanilla honey. We make a hot honey. And our chef and culinary team works to develop those flavor profiles and recipes that tend to work with our wines. So we serve a cheese plate as part of our tasting experience in the tasting room, and we will drizzle the solar grown honey on top of the cheese as part of the program. So it really, really ties things together. But one other very important point from the farm is that we also have a preserves program. So we make both sweet and savory preserves and jams. And we have a preserves kitchen on our property. And we harvest the fruit, we bring it in, and we make a whole host of these delicious products, such as Meyer lemon marmalade, blueberry and blackberry jam. We make apple butter and onion jam, and these just absolutely delicious products that we sell them in our tasting room and in small boutique shops around California, as well as use them in our tasting room.
Wow, I'm getting hungry now. And Meghan Markle isn't the only one making preserves now. I know it's a Clif family. We have that going for us. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the red wine, the proprietary red Napa Valley wine that you sent over. Kind of in my mind, a Bordeaux blend, given the varietals that you have in there. What was your vision for this wine?
So the vision on this wine was to make a flagship wine from this new property, which we call Valle di Sotto. And that vineyard name comes from, it's Italian for the valley below, as a reference to our Howell Mountain properties. So we're making Howell Mountain cabs that are single vineyard, and we wanted to make this iconic wine from our new vineyard on the valley floor. The tannin profiles and the fruit flavors are really, really different just because of the nature of the site, elevation, weather patterns. So we really get the opportunity to show how the valley floor can be very different from mountain fruit. And that's just an amazing opportunity for a winemaker. We decided to make this a blend because we have this varietal diversity on our side down on the valley floor, where I have 4 out of 5 Bordeaux varietals planted at our vineyard. So to be able to have this be 100% estate, 100% certified organic vineyard land, farmed regeneratively, and then made all these little lots made individually, and then I'm able to put together the very, very best blend from that particular vintage. It's really a true opportunity to make an icon wine from our Valle di Sotto vineyard.
Yeah, it smells delicious. And I know you invest in a good amount of new oak with this wine, which mostly people only do for their flagship wines or their, top tier wines. I think I've read 75% new oak. And how long is this aging?
Yeah, so this wine will be in all French oak barrels for about 22 months. And the percentage of new oak is typically between 70 and 80% each year. And that really generally falls on the Cabernet and Cabernet Franc varietals. Those will go into the majority new oak. And then as I bring the blend together, the Merlot might not get as much new French oak, and then the percentage just shuffles and falls into place. But the oak has a really nice presence, but it's not overpowering because we're on the Because we're on the valley floor, we get a lot of really bright fruits. You get a lot of blackberry and blueberry, and the oak really just supports that and gives the palate a little bit more structure from the wood.
Yeah, I got a hit on the nose like a cigar box or something that would indicate the oak aging. But then when I took the sip, I was expecting it to be pretty tannic, but it's so elegant and just really refined. The tannin's there, but it's not like, oh, wow, this is tannic.
Right. I mean, we want to be able to produce a wine that has structure, but is not dry. So sometimes mountain Cabernet requires a little bit of bottle age in order to get there. And people know to expect that from mountain fruit. You have much smaller berries. You have much smaller grapevines that are a little more stressed from volcanic soil and not as much water holding capacity and not as much nutrient holding capacity. So when you're on the mountain and you have a smaller berry, you have more skin and less juice. Whereas when you're on the valley floor, you have a little bit of, you have a bigger crop. And so you have a bigger berry, and that allows for the opportunity to extract in a different way. And we can use temperature and the method of extraction during fermentation as tools to craft the wine in a different way. And that's a lot of the fun of what I get to do during the harvest season. But the goal is to make this wine very structured, but also very approachable.
I think you hit that right on the nail with this one. I'm in love. So you mentioned that your vineyards are certified organic, and I feel like this can be really confusing to a consumer. How do I know, or is there a way to know if I'm just shopping in a shop and I see your wines? Is there a way for me to know that it's certified organic, or what is my tell on the bottle?
So you have to look a little harder into the back label language. The way that we do it is we have an ingredient statement on the back, and it says ingredients organic grapes. So it's important to note that the wine is not organic, but the grapes are organic. So the TTB has pretty strict regulations on how we can make organic wine. So there aren't that many people doing it. I hope in the future that there'll be more people that can produce organic wine, but it becomes a little challenging. So made with organic grapes is what you want to look for. And it can either be in your back label copy, or it can be in an ingredient statement, or it can say boldly made with organic grapes.
I love that. And I love that you have the ingredients listing there, because I actually wish that everyone would do that with their wines, because I know there are some producers who use Mega Purple, which is a coloring for wine, and other things that I don't really want to purchase if I knew that was used with the wine, or powdered tannins or what have you. So I really appreciated that is on the back label. I love the organic farming, but I also love that this is simple. It's the organic grapes, it's the yeast, and it's the, small amount of sulfites that you use. And I know it's small because they're organically grown grapes, and that means something. So I appreciate that. But what also means something, I know, to you and to a lot of other people who enjoy wine, is the idea of wineries being more sustainable and being a good steward to the land, because obviously you're processing and manufacturing and you have this huge farm. What are some things you do to kind of, I know your goal is zero waste, and you're focused on that sustainability. What are some examples that you can share with my listeners about what you guys do at Clif Family?
We do a lot at Clif Family in the world of sustainable farming and sustainable business practices. Just to step back to the Clif Bar days, Kit and Gary wanted to found Clif Bar and their business practices on what they call not just one bottom line, which would be profit, it's 5 bottom lines, and they call that their 5 aspirations. And that is sustaining our business, sustaining our brand, our people, our planet, and our community. So those 5 pillars and 5 aspirations we bring over into our business model here at Clif Family Winery. And I could give 1,000 examples under all 5 of those categories to what we're doing. One really important one in the community world is that we have something called SIP and support, where once a month we have an event and we partner with an organization, usually local, and we donate 20% of the proceeds to that organization. And then we co-market. We try to get a lot of people in the tasting room and raise as much money as we can for that organization. That's a community event. We are farming organically, and that has always been the way. And that's really about the inputs that we're putting into the ground. What are we spraying? What kind of fertilizers are we using? Those things all have to be certified organic products. To take that to the next level, we are farming regeneratively. So the idea there is that we can't just sustain, we must regenerate. So that is really a concept of farming in a way that you use natural products to regenerate the soil and regenerate nutrients and use less fossil fuels. So we want to reduce tractor passes. We want to use animal grazing as a mowing pass plus a fertilization opportunity. We incorporate bee boxes and bird boxes and owl boxes to bring pollinators and a form of pest control that is not a spray. And the whole concept of not tilling, and that allows us to increase the microbiome of our soil. So those are just some examples. And then we recently, in 2022, took this whole sustainability measure to the next level. And as a business, we became B Corp certified. And
that is on the back of all your labels as well.
It is. The B Corp logo is on there, and we're very, very proud to have it there. This is the highest level of sustainability achievement that you can strive for. And it's a global organization, and it's not just specific to the wine business. And it takes into account both environmental and social sustainability. So really takes into account the people piece, which we had already been doing. But it's just really nice to acknowledge what we're doing and be able to talk about it and spread the word and be leaders. There are only 3 B Corp certified wineries in the Napa Valley. And so we're really proud to be a part of that program.
I love this. Well, I'm so inspired. I was out in Napa a couple years ago, but now I need to get back because I want to see all of this in real life, or IRL, as they say. Exciting. If folks are inspired to check out your wines and to maybe come out and visit, where can they get more information and connect with you?
So on our website, we have so much information. We have a description of our tasting experiences. We have recipes. We have all sorts of great opportunities on our website, www.cliffamily.com. cliffamily.com. And on our website, you will also find descriptions on our wine clubs. And we have something called the Wine Drop. And it's a subscription model. So you can sign up for 3 or 6 bottles, and you can choose the frequency of your shipments. And you can really tailor it to exactly what you want and how often you want these wines. And that's one of the best ways to experience Clif Family Winery from afar.
Yes, and be an insider. Be part of the club. Love that. Well, Laura, this has been fabulous. I love all 3 of these wines. I love your dedication to sustainability and organics. Thank you so much for joining us. And I just wanted to say cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.